The air in the car was cold and still, smelling faintly of old fast food and ambition. In the quiet dark, a young man lay across the back seat, staring at the ceiling fabric sagging above him. His bones ached from the thin cushions, but the real weight was the crushing silence, the sound of a world that was not yet listening. This is how it ends, he might have thought, not with a bang, but in the back of a convertible I can't afford to park. For Elon Musk, the expectations had always been a ladder he refused to climb. He had left a promising PhD path at Stanford after just 2 days, a move that felt like betrayal to his family. They saw a secure future vanishing. He saw the internet, a frontier crackling with potential, and knew he had to build there. His first venture collapsed, a quiet and brutal education. Money evaporated. Friends, who had cheered the idea, slowly drifted back to stable jobs and predictable lives. A fault line began to show, his belief in a transformative future against the world's demand for sensible, immediate profit. He was living on the wrong side of that divide. The real betrayal, however, came not from strangers, but from allies. After his second company, Zip2, sold, and he poured every dollar into his next dream, an online bank that would become PayPal. He was building the future he promised. Then, while he was away on his honeymoon, the board of his own company held a vote. They removed him. Emails stopped syncing. Access codes no longer worked. He was erased, not by failure, but by a quiet coup. The message was clear. The dreamer is not fit to run the kingdom. He was exiled at his moment of victory. What followed was a slow, grinding pressure. He took his share and aimed for the stars, literally founding SpaceX. Experts and former friends in the industry called it a vanity project, a foolish circus. He funneled money into a struggling electric car company named Tesla, a second front in his war for the future. The failures were public and spectacular. 3 SpaceX rockets exploded in fiery succession, each blast televised, each one a multi-million-dollar firework of his humiliation. The media narrative solidified. Musk was a reckless gambler. Privately, the costs mounted. He worked 100-hour weeks, sleeping on a factory floor in a corner, using a couch cushion as a pillow. He missed his children's birthdays. His reserves dwindled until only one rocket, one final launch, stood between him and total ruin. In that terrible quiet before the last launch, a realization settled, cold and clear. The betrayal wasn't personal malice. It was the system's immune response to a radical idea. The boards, the critics, the laughter, they weren't evil. They were predictable. They demanded proof on their terms. He saw the true power balance. They held the present, but he held a relentless, detailed vision of the future. And a vision, if built brick by brick, could become a fact they could no longer ignore. So he did not shout. He did not write angry letters. His response was a quiet, almost inhuman resolve. He focused on physics, not feelings. On engineering, not ego. He gathered his remaining loyal team, the few who still saw the blueprint in his eyes. They pored over the wreckage of the failed rockets, finding the flaws not in their dream, but in a specific weld, a material flaw. The plan was not a speech, but a correction. The strategy was to simply succeed at the impossible task everyone said was a joke. September 28, 2008. The fourth Falcon 9 rocket stood on the launch pad. This was the climax, not a courtroom drama, but a countdown. If it failed, SpaceX and Tesla died with it. The rocket ignited, lifted, and pierced the sky. This time, there was no explosion. It reached orbit. A signal came back, clean and strong. The control room erupted, but Musk simply nodded, a quiet storm passing behind his eyes. The consequence landed not with a legal document but with a NASA contract soon after. The public realization was slow but absolute. The man they had laughed at was now a partner to the world's premier space agency. The aftermath wasn't about revenge. It was about boundaries. He built his companies into fortresses of his vision, insulating them from the doubt that once ruled him. But in a small act of grace, he never forgot the lesson of those cold nights. He used his position not for vengeance, but to empower other dreamers, funding projects that sounded, to many, just as impossible as his once had. The moral of this real-life story isn't that you should suffer to succeed. It's that the world often mistakes obsession for madness until that obsession quietly changes the rules. Sometimes, dignity is not in the fight you pick, but in the future you patiently build while everyone else is watching you fail. If this quiet story of endurance resonated with you, please share your thoughts in the comments below. For more real-life stories about navigating betrayal and finding resilience, subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring more calm, reflective narratives like this one to you. Thank you for listening.